This is how to crochet Tunisian Entrelac, all the parts in one video. It's 10 minutes long, so I will put the timestamps in the comments. But first, we're going to start with 10 chains, rotate the chain forward, and then I'm going to work into the back bump of every single chain going across. I'm going to pull up a loop until I have pulled up 9 loops for a total of 10 loops on the hook. So this one is going to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So now that I have 10 loops on my hook, I am going to yarn over, and then I'm going to pull through 2 loops at a time until I only have 1 loop remaining. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. I try to keep this a little bit tighter than I do the loops, and that'll help ease the curling just a little bit. So the loop should be loose, and then this part should be a little bit tighter. Now that I have my foundation row, I'm going to work on row 2, and I'm going to pull up a loop into every single vertical loop, going all the way across again until I have a total of 10 loops on my hook. And again, these loops should be loose. If you are somebody who likes to pull their stitches tight after every single stitch, I would recommend going up 1, 2, maybe even 3 hook sizes, and that'll lessen the curl. The curl is a natural process. It's very natural for the Tunisian stitch, so it's not because you're doing anything wrong. And then I'm going to finish this row the same way I did the foundation row, yarn over and pull through 2 all the way until the end, and I'm going to repeat row 2 until I have 6 rows total for my corner piece. So you can pause here, and then I'll meet you at the end of our swatch, or you can keep watching if you're just watching for fun. So now that I have 6 rows, I'm going to slip stitch my way across. So instead of pulling up a loop, I'm going to yarn over, pull through the vertical loop, and then pull through the loop on my hook. This again, I want to keep loosely so that it doesn't cinch at the top. So this process has 2 purposes. 1, it gives it a nice finishing edge up top, and then 2, it kind of rotates the stitch forward and finishes it off. So I've got 2 more left, and 1 more, and then I'm going to chain 1. Well, I'm going to count my rows just to be safe. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'm going to chain 1, cut my yarn, and then we'll work on the next section. Now this is a no-sew method. You will have to weave in ends, unfortunately, but you won't have to sew the squares together, so you can make them as big or as small as you like. Now to start my next color, I'm going to rotate my swatch over, and I'm going to insert my hook into the side of row 1 from the front to the back. Then chain 1, pull it tight, and then I'm going to chain 10. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now that I have 10 chains, I am going to rotate this chain forward again, insert my hook into the back loop, pull up a loop, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now to connect it to my side piece, I'm going to insert it into the same spot that I pulled the yarn up. from the front to the back, yarn over, pull through the corner piece, and then through the first loop on the hook. And then from here, I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2 all the way until I only have 1 loop remaining on my hook. Now, row 2 for this square is going to be very similar to row 2 from the first square. The only difference to the first square is that you are going to slip stitch into the second row of the first square, just like we just did. So I'm going to pull up a loop into each of the vertical loops going across. So this one's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'm going to slip stitch into row 2. So I'm going to insert it right here next to row 2, yarn over, pull through the corner of the square, pull through the first loop, and then yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then I like to use my left middle finger and thumb to guide my hook as it's pulling through the loops. It just keeps everything facing the same way, and it keeps my stitches and tension even. I'm going to repeat this row until I have 6 rows in this square piece. You can pause here, and for this we are going to slip stitch our way back across. So, whoops, gotta put the hook back. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and now we're going to slip stitch into that corner piece of the first square. Then we're going to chain 1, and that's essentially the equivalent of our turning chain, but we're not turning. And then for this next section, I'm going to pull up a loop using the front loop, not the vertical loop, but the front loop of the corner piece right there. You could technically work into the vertical loops going across, but I found that it gives you a kind of bulky texture in the back, and by working into the front loop only, you are flattening it out and creating kind of like a cushiony look. But like I always say, crochet is fiber art is art is subjective, there's no right or wrong. These are just my recommendations and tips. Now that I have all my 10 loops, I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2 until I only have 1 loop remaining, and then I'm going to add 5 more rows like I did for every other square, and until I have 6 rows. This process is how you increase to the right and up, so you're going to do that until your blanket or whatever you're making is the size that you want, and then this is where you're going to start decreasing. So instead of working to the right of the square, you're going to work to the top, and we're going to insert it where we would normally slip stitch. Chain 1, and then we're going to pull up a loop using the front loops until we have 10 loops on the hook. The rest of this process is nothing new compared to what we've been doing, and after you've been doing this for a while, it's almost going to be second nature. The biggest difference is when decreasing is where you insert your hook. So instead of inserting your hook on the bottom right corner of a square to start a new color or to start a new square, you're going to insert it in the top right corner to kind of start closing up the gap. This process is very similar to corner if you've ever worked a C2C project. I do have a tutorial on that coming up as well. I'm very excited about it. But essentially, you're working from the bottom left corner to the top right corner. If you have any questions about this stitch or another stitch, or you would like to see a different project, or if you don't like how this tutorial went and you would like to see a different way, let me know and I will try to accommodate you to the best of my ability.